Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take for Market Rebellion on this Friday morning. And let me tell you something. Wow, do we have a lot of news stories in front of us today. But looking back to yesterday, what were some of the news stories? Well, we were extremely volatile. When you look at the Dow itself, the NASDAQ remained strong all throughout the day, but the Dow was moving up and down and all around. A lot of different catalysts throughout the day. Stimulus hopes certainly being one of those. We actually, early on in the session, we actually had the Dow over 28,000. That dipped and got itself back into the red, but we still did finish up about 35 points on the day. So really kind of a flat day really for the Dow. But inside of that flatness, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of movement, and there's no doubt about that. Now, on the other side of things, the NASDAQ just held on to its gains. It flexed around a little bit, but it remained strong throughout the day, finished up on the day about 1.5%. So a very strong performance once again, especially into that final hour of the day for the NASDAQ. That was something pretty special to watch. In terms of the Dow, some of the drags on the Dow, well, there's no doubt about it, energy. And we've talked about energy. We've talked about the price of oil and crude being under some pressure. We're now back into the 30s. We were up into those low 40s for a while there. But Chevron was definitely down yesterday. That was pulling on the market. Also Caterpillar, Dow, 3M, they were all pulling on the market. So industrials and some energy pulling on things in terms of just the Dow. Now, looking over and shifting over towards the NASDAQ, we talked about the NASDAQ being up about 1.5%. What were some of those drivers? Well, it was some of the usual suspects. You had Tesla, Netflix, AMD, NXPI, Microchip, Lulu. You had KLAC 10 Core, you had Qorvo. So you can hear it within that. We've got a lot of names that are definitely in the chip space, the semiconductors, which have continued to be one of these strong performers. They've had some pullbacks, no doubt about it, but it seems as if that's one of the areas that has the most resilience and the most bounce after being pushed to the downside. Certainly does explode to the upside really quickly. Now, we also had some nice moves across the board in some of the major retailers. Walmart, Gap stores really having a nice shift to the upside. L Brands as well. Target, well, another all-time high for Target. Not so bad. Bed Bath & Beyond had a monster day along with Best Buy. So really across the board, you look over at retail and you see some real nice strength there. We also had some great strength out of DraftKings, Virgin Galactic, Datadog, another one of these names that's just gotten to be one of these very explosive names. And there are times where the shifting in there, and as a matter of fact, the option activity there has been absolutely telling. It's been right on, it seems like, consistently throughout. And we've had some huge runs in that one specifically. As a matter of fact, just the other day when we had some of the unusual option activity hit in that particular name, the 100s, they started at 40 cents. Those actually got up over $5.50. So some huge moves in some of these names that can be very almost life-changing type moves if you're fortunate enough to see the unusual option activity. That's what we're here for. That's what we're looking for. Follow the smart money. And that's one of the names that really has produced time and time again, along with DraftKings. We had some huge paper earlier in the week buying in DraftKings, the 59s, the 60s. Well, that stock yesterday, well over $60 a share. That was pretty nice as well. So, Home Builders Index. That's one of those areas that we've seen a lot of activity. And yesterday, I just wanted to kind of break down what we were seeing, where we were seeing some of the activity. The Home Builders Index, that was one of them. It was the actual index itself, and that, that's Whirlpool and Lowe's, but also the home builders themselves. But don't think that it's just the builders. This is a lot of the different storylines around the builders as well that compete. Matter of fact, Train, one of those names as well. So a lot of different aspects of what you're looking at here when you look at the XHB. Huge buying in there. Twitter, we had a monstrous roll there. Snap, another extremely active day for Snap where we've watched that stock made a very big, fast move to the upside. The velocity of this move has been very, very, just take a look. Take a look on the chart, and then you can see where the options were and where those options have moved to. It's really been an unbelievable ride. So yesterday, we talked about some of that volatility of yesterday. As a matter of fact, about 27 million contracts trading yesterday. So fairly active day once again to start off October. We talked about how we've had a little bit of a bounce back with some of the volumes, that being one of them. Pretty nice day once again. Under 30, but still upper 20s. We'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Volatility index, we were bouncing around and we actually finished somewhere close to that 27 level. Today, a little bit of a different story. So let's just start off with today that there were really two stories going on out there. A lot of it having to do with the jobs, and we had some information of the unemployment the other day, but now we had the jobs number, 661,000. We were looking for a little bit better number in terms of added jobs, so that was disappointing. So there's number one. Number two, the news about the president and the first lady and coronavirus. And that certainly had the markets definitely in a bit of a spin, especially once the president had tweeted that out, confirming this whole deal. And so what really got hit hard? Well, recovery stocks immediately, because it just seems to hit people in the head. And it seems like right away we had the pressure on the cruise ships and the airlines and the hotels and all the usual suspects, so to speak. So opening indications, we're down about 450 points, a pretty significant move to the downside. NASDAQ down about 270 points. We get to the open, we bounce back pretty nicely. As a matter of fact, down about 300, 320 on the Dow, 200 on the NASDAQ, so cutting some of those losses. Early on, we're down about 200 points on the Dow, about 150 points on the NASDAQ. Now, let's take a look. So we are exactly 40 minutes into the trading session. We're down about 130 points on the Dow, NASDAQ down under 100, down 97 points right now. And the volatility index, which was spiking, got up over 29, now back down at 28. So up 5%, nice little move to the upside, but nothing like what we were seeing as we were approaching from the pre-market into the market itself. So some calming going on right now in the markets very, very rapidly. I talked about crude oil. That's down about 5% today, or it was down 5% today. It was trading in the 36s, so that obviously impacting energy. I took a quick look over at the OIH. Serious pressure there once again, down not quite 2%, but down over 1.5%. Names like Occidental and Halliburton, National Oil Well, Varco, sort of the usual suspects when I talk about the beta names. And I use the OIH oftentimes because even though that's a services index, those are sort of the beta names in energy. So what I mean by that is they are going to move at a much faster, higher beta, a much faster pace than you will see in some of the other names, oftentimes like maybe a Chevron or an Exxon or whatever it might be. But you go over to the next tier and you get a little bit higher beta stocks that are going to move at a much faster pace. And that's kind of what we are seeing today. So is there anything to the upside? Was there anything to the upside when we were going into this swirl to the downside very early on? There's a couple names out there that stick out. There's no doubt about it. Zoom being number one. Clorox. Well, I talked about some of those other names in the recovery stocks. Well, or names that move around depending on if we're recovering or going backwards. Certainly, Clorox stands out. Honeywell stood out. Constellation, well, that's pretty interesting. You got alcohol and you've got marijuana combined there. So that's a pretty interesting thing. But that was in positive territory as well. So what was getting hit early on? It was tech. It was industrials. It was financials, all of which were getting hit pretty significantly. Some of those losses definitely coming off a little bit. And as those stocks start to rise, and as I mentioned, we were down well over 400 points. Now, we are slipping a little bit, but the Dow is down about 150 points. So what is our unusual option activity today? Well, I've got two, but that's going to be at the halftime report. Take a look, CNBC. Well, I will be on the halftime report from my basement. I'll have the fireplace going in the background. They shut me down on the TV. I'm not really sure why. I actually like the TV. I was able to use that for a lot of different things while the show was going on, but a lot of people didn't like the delay, blah, 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 whatever. Just focus on what's going on. So I will have two unusuals then, but I have one unusual for you right now, Zoom. Now, I got to tell you, the premiums here, because of the dollar amount of what this Zoom trades at right now, $498.50 is where the stock was when we had some unusual option activity. So these options are pretty expensive. These are going out 1 week from today. So again, ultra short term. They're buying 3,000 of the 500 strike calls. Well, as I said, $498.50. Call it 500. Stock is right at the money for where they are buying these. So if Zoom continues on this push to the upside, these options can move to the upside. These are a $12.50 option. So these are an option that's as expensive oftentimes as many of the stocks that are being traded every single day. So just keep that in mind, understand that, and also understand the short term of this trade. It's 1 week, and then poof, that's over. So just really have a concept of that, along with these are a much higher dollar value type trade than a lot of the trades that we talk about oftentimes. Just wanted to point that out. And where do you get that knowledge? You get it from the Market Rebellion team. They are the very best in the industry. They'll educate you and they will get you to the point where you will have an opportunity for success. It does not ever, nothing is guaranteed, but the opportunity is there and you can understand how you can mitigate some of that risk and all the rest of it. That's very important. We've got some of the very best in the industry. I am not kidding. I love these guys. They do a great job. Our chart people do an absolutely amazing job. The Unusual Option team is incredible how fast they're able to get this stuff up on our site and get it out there for everybody who is a subscriber of that as well. I just got to tell you, proud of our guys. They do an absolutely amazing job each and every day, each and every week, and they have been doing that for a very long time for the Market Rebellion. Appreciate that. Knowledge is king. Make sure you get that knowledge. Giddy up, baby. See you at noon.